Chris Lynch with ePark Canterbury. Park at 264 Russell Road and go in the draw to win a trip to Samoa. eParkcanterbury.co.nz.
Well, the Wheels to Wings cycleways, the cost at least, appears to have increased again by millions of dollars. In fact, the Christchurch City Council has already spent $5 million, but there's nothing much to show for it yet. To discuss this is the Heward Councillor, Keown. Aaron, good evening and thanks so much for your time.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good, thanks. It's fair to say that you are a champion of cycleways, but just not the costs or the so-called over-engineering. So Council had a meeting last week, a workshop, and in that meeting, is it true that staff said they've already spent $5 million on the Wings to Wheels cycleway?
Yeah, so we've now learnt that it's around $5.4 million has been spent in total, and we're yet to see any physical works take place.
That seems like a hell of a lot of money, Aaron.
Yeah, well, the council itself's only got $9.5 million on budget for this, and the total budget's 22.7. That budget was set in 2019. The budget we found out last week is now over $30 million. Where's the money coming from for a project that by far the majority of locals do not want?
So let me get this straight. So the council had budgeted, $7 million for this project. It's now looking to be upwards to the very top end. We're speaking of $30 million.
Yeah, we had just over $9.5 million on our budget, which was spent over half now. 5.4 has been spent, which leaves around $4.4 million left. Some of us want to just take half of that money and deliver the traffic lights that the people of Bishopdale and Heward want at Heward Breens Gardeners Road, where there was an accident again 2 weeks ago, and another incident last week where police, fire and ambulance were called to. So it's not an intersection without its problems. It needs solving, and we should use that money to do that and put the cycleway on the back burner.
Do you think the cycleway will go on the back burner, considering staff are champions of them, regardless, it appears, of the costs?
Well, it's pretty clear the new government won't be funding half of this, and that's another number that's been a little bit misleading. Up until now, we were led to believe the government would put in half. That's not the amount they fund, and now it's looking like even less so. The ratepayer could be up to the entire $30+ million.
Okay. I can hear cycling advocates say this is just a drop in the ocean, so to speak, when it comes to costs, when you compare the cost of cycleways with the amount that we spend on the roads. I mean, is that a fair point?
Not really, no. Cyclists are around 3% of regular users of roads. Roads are mainly paid for out of fuel tax. So, those that are paying for the roads should be getting the better service. And I'm not saying cyclists don't get a good service. Cyclists do get a good service. We've just finished the Papanui Parallel, which runs all the way up to Northwood now along the railway line. Those are the type of cycleways that I've always been advocating for, taking the shortest route and to make the trip as safe as possible. It's like you said earlier, it's the over-engineering and the cost blowouts that are getting people upset.
As the City Councillor for Heward, and I know we were trying to speak to Victoria Henstock as well, but she was unavailable for this interview, but from what you are being told by the residents in your ward that will be affected by the cycleways, do they want them though? Are they calling out for these?
Some people want cycleways and want cycle connections across the city. That's absolutely true. But in my ward, certainly the majority don't want over-engineered cycleways. In fact, it's a really small minority that want that type of cycleway. People don't want an entire lane removed off Heward Road. It's an 18,000 vehicle a day road, and nowhere else in New Zealand have they done a lane reduction except in Auckland in the mess that's called Fort Street.
Do you think this Heward Road cycleway will go ahead, given what you know, given the community's concerns about this, but also the staff's willpower to push through with these things, regardless of consultation or otherwise?
My fear is that it may go ahead because there's a number of councillors that don't really believe in democracy. They believe in their own elected power, that they know better than the public. The public have overwhelmingly fed back on this one that they don't want that particular design. They don't really want it on Heward Road. And so are the council going to listen? We will find out in the coming weeks.
But isn't democracy the majority? And if the majority vote for them, isn't that democracy though?
I think it once upon a time was how democracy worked, Chris. It doesn't seem to anymore, which is a real shame. And I think that's why when it comes to elections and things for local government, you see a poor voter turnout because people just don't trust those that make the decisions.
And also, just before I let you go, Aaron, I know you got meetings to attend. I noticed you did comment on my Facebook page regarding the Shirley intersections there, where they're going to be putting these raised platforms. And the irony there, of course, is that the council feedback suggested from the residents, the residents opposed these raised platforms, but council staff came back to me and said, well, in fact, in their own report, said it wasn't so much about the concerns of the residents of raised platforms, it was more about the concerns of safety. So they've already made their decision, Aaron, and you would say that's not democracy.
And it isn't democracy. They keep pulling out safety, which is interesting because you get feedback from the ambulance service, the fire service, and the police service that they don't like the raised platforms because they inhibit their work. The bus network don't like them. It's about trying to get people out of cars. And so there's a clear agenda which is very anti-car. It's been around for quite some time, and I'm hoping with the new minister in Keown, he's just not going to support any of this. In fact, he said he's going to rip out some of those raised platforms because they make no sense on a modern network.
Well, it slows down the traffic, that's for sure. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I guess it depends on what you like. Aaron Keown, it's always good to have your perspective, something different that perhaps other media don't want to report on. So I appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Chris.